first started.
And no matter what it was, even if it was, you know, $100 bill,
Right.
She's
throw
gonna
it
tell
away,
all
he
his
would
stories
throw it
first.
away.
Yes.
So
Wow.
we do have some things that he rescued from the garbage.
I've got some of those pieces at home. You want a picture of? I gave the
think-
nicest to my son.
The day I came over to visit you years ago when this project first started,
Yeah.
you
Oh, that's
invited
right.
me over and I did take some pictures.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
good,
So I
good,
have
yes.
a couple of pictures of that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, my God.
So
that
you are
was-
compiling a book, is that it?
Well, we're compiling a digital library
Oh,
of what do you call these primary resources?
Primary sources.
Primary sources. So since we can't interview Colonel Wadsworth,
no, it would be a little difficult.
it would be.
One-sided.
So, but we can interview you, so that just makes more sense,
Oh.
you know. So when
You're
Liam's
recording?
Yeah,
oh,
You're-
you are
you-
recording
yep.
now. Oh, good.
we have a lot. We have plenty of space and time.
Okay.
We could do this for half an hour,
2, 3.
2, 3 hours.
Really?
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay.
Is that all?
If we really wanted to, I could get extra batteries and we could go on for.
The sun will have
Thanks.
already
Yeah.
set.
He's very resourceful.
Okay, so
Okay, so why don't we'll start, okay?
Okay.
So here we are on Laurel Grove Road, down the hill from the Wadsworth Mansion. And as I understand it, you grew up here
Oh, yes.
on Laurel Grove.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. And have you lived here all your life?
Forever.
Forever.
Violet lived here longer than I.
Did she? Well, tell us about your family now. You have Violet was your sister. And did you have a brother?
Yeah, my brother Stanley.
Uh-huh.
I think you've met him once or twice.
I
Did
believe.
you not? Up at the hill.
Yeah.
And that was the family. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And mom and dad.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So Alec looked at Mary and he says, well, and she says, that's enough. So that was the end of our family after Stanley.
Oh,
He
I
waited
see.
for the sun.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Well, did your parents meet in Middletown?
Oh, yeah, just down the road a piece.
Uh-huh.
My father worked,
Yes.
yeah, my father worked at the woolen mill, like for
Oh.
about a year.
Mm-hmm.
But he couldn't tolerate the factory and all the stuff that goes with it. It was the woolen mill, and it's still there next to the little brook down the road a piece.
Uh-huh.
And then his friend who worked there said, Alec, there's, the millionaires, and they're looking for a chauffeur. So he applied, and he got the job. And they weren't married at that time, but they met at the bridge, the old bridge into Rockfall. And that was it. End of story.
Well, it's a wonderful story. So he became the chauffeur
Oh,
for
yeah.
the Wadsworths.
He was, yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about his duties? And I think he had to wear a uniform.
Oh, yes. And this was, a uniform. This was woolen. It was, like a black woolen worsted suit. And this was his uniform with a hat. We have a picture someplace. And the gloves, he had to wear gloves.
Oh.
And one time, and of course every morning, part of his duties, he took the colonel down to Main Street, Middletown, and he went there every single day to pick up the mail on Main Street, the old post office corner of Court and Main. And that was his duty, and the colonel went with him, sat in the car, and picked up the mail. And he had to be dressed with his cap and his gloves and the puttees.
Puttees.
Yeah, puttee. I think that's what you call them. Do you not?
I think so.
Yeah,
but
it's,
don't often hear about those.
Yeah. Well, I guess they went out of style some time ago. And and that was a black serge suit, and it must have been hotter this time of the year, but that was it. And one day it was the 4th of July with 95 degrees, and what do? You take off your leather gloves as you're waiting. And so the colonel went to the building, came back, and he looked at my father and he says, "Alec, you're not dressed," because he took his gloves off. So he gave him hell because he wasn't dressed and he didn't have the gloves. But other than that, and of course Dad would go up there for the day. It was, oh, go do this and do that, or else I'm going to Boston, take me in the morning. His shoes. No, the dentist. The time he went all the way to Boston to go to the dentist, went to Boston, had his tooth, whatever, came back on the Middletown Portland Bridge, and he says, "Alec, turn around, let's go back, the tooth is bothering me." So they turned around on the Portland Bridge, went back to Boston to get it fixed. Anyway, he was he was something to work for. She was a darling. She was a peach. I mean, she was, I think she liked Alec. I really do. Yeah.
He was a young guy.
Yeah, he was a
She
young guy.
was young, too.
And he wasn't bad looking, I must admit.
Well,
So between the looks and the age, hey, that's all right.
Right.
But she was very nice, yeah. She was a very nice person. In fact, I still have the pink silk bunting. When I was born, you were born, I guess, here, weren't you, at home? Yeah, you came early. You were unannounced. She was, and no, I was born at the hospital, so she came to visit me at the hospital with a pink silk bunting.
Oh, lovely.
And so I still have it. It's 90 years old, but I still have it someplace. Don't ask me for it. It's here someplace. And she was very, very, very generous. He was a miser. I mean, when he passed away, God's honest truth, when he passed away in his will, and there not he, but the whomever, and they gave my father a box, and in it were his old bedroom slippers. That's what he gave my father. After 40 years of faithful service to my faithful servant Alec.
In his will?
In his will. You know, we should get a copy of that.
I told you.
Yeah, we should. Okay.
Oh,
the
my.
next time you come by,
Okay, the next show we'll have the
Okay.
copy of the will.
that's my homework for the next time.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, he was one of a kind. Oh yeah. He wasn't very sociable. At winter time, he had 350 some odd acres around here. So at winter time, he used to hire these young men from Rockfall in this area, and they used to watch the woods because he didn't want anybody to touch his trees. He had 358 acres, didn't want anybody to touch the trees. But around Christmas time, with all the men that he paid to watch the trees, the lady from Wesleyan, near the store, near that store.
Near home in Brainerd, was
Yes,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know that story about the woman who? Oh, well, it was Christmas time, so she picked up a stick, and she picked up this stick. It was a piece of greenery. Christmas time, she wanted to use them. So she picked up this little old stick, and she carried it with her. And she was walking down the road, and Alex stopped the car. He always sat in the front seat with my father, and the madam sat in the back seat alone. Alex stopped the car. So he stopped the car, and so he scolded the woman. Oh, he followed her home. Yeah, he followed her home, and this was near Wesleyan, near the field.
Mm-hmm.
And followed her home. She went in the house, and he went with her. And so he says, "Give me back my stick, my property." So she gave it to him, and he says, "Don't you ever come into my woods again." Oh yeah, he was stingy, feisty. Anyway, he wasn't fun to work for. Anyway.
Colonel Wadsworth was a military man, wasn't
Oh,
he?
he was, yeah. There's a picture of him in his
I think
in
we've
his
got
uniform.
it here.
Yeah,
Here he goes.
he was in the Connecticut
I don't remember.
First Regiment or
Foot
something.
Guard, and then he was
Yes.
that picture, yeah.
Yeah, that's the colonel. Yeah.
Surrounded by his two sons.
Yes.
Oh, let me see.
Yeah.
Let me see.
That. And I think that was 1927 or 28. So you would have been
Could have
either
been.
just a baby in arms when he was,
Yeah.
that picture was taken, or a year old.
Oh, yeah.
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 So we have copies of that in our files, so we can get that to you.
Oh, good.
Liam, if you want to put that with
Yeah.
this
Oh, we don't
sometime.
have that.
Okay, now
I'm
which
trying
one?
to figure out which who's who.
Now his.
One was Julius and one was Seymour.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't-
we've
but I
always wondered which was which.
Yes, I know it. I'm looking at it also.
The two sons
Which
look-
would be the eldest, would you
And
say?
they looked alike.
Did they look
Yeah.
like? Yeah.
I know, it's
They were
hard to
both
tell.
Neither
Yeah.
one was
Military.
sociable.
Their father.
Yes, yes.
We
Oh,
had-
he was. I mean, he was. Yeah.
Do you?
I'm Colonel
This one
Wadsworth.
looks
Yeah.
like the eldest.
I've wondered
what?
if that was the
The left one.
eldest one.
There's a young one.
Or the oldest, I think. That's what I think personally.
The one on the left, yeah. But, well, they kept horses at Long Hill, didn't they?
Oh, yes. Oh, well, the horses were here at the barn.
Oh, at this barn? Mrs. Flagg's barn?
Mrs. Flagg's barn,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. They kept the carriages up there, and I guess the wagons were here because we knocked down the barn to put up the house. So the barn was here, and so you can see that in the other room. They were knocking down the barn, and I painted it. I figured I got to preserve it somehow. So that was my first painting job.
oh, wonderful.
Anyway, it was a big barn. I mean, a big barn. All of this and then some, because the 2 or 4 horses were here and a couple of carriages and a little this, a little that. So, yeah, that was here, and we knocked it down. Let's see, we were married 52. We built the house maybe 56, 57. Yeah, that was a few years ago.
Right. But would the Wadsworths ride on the trails, carriage rides all through the woods?
Yeah, down through there. That was the, that went into Rock Falls.
I see.
Yeah. So we can take a walk
Oh, I think
sometime. Okay,
it's too
next
hot.
time.
It's maybe someday when it's not quite so hot.
Promise?
Promise.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Good. Take the day off from school.
You once told us a story I thought Liam might sympathize with because he has a new dog, and you had a dog as a child, and there's a horrible
Yeah.
Wadsworth story to go with that one.
Well, we had a couple of dogs.
Uh-huh.
It seems whenever they went, somebody went to Scotland and came back with a Scottish Terrier,
Uh-huh.
a black one, the cutest little thing this side of heaven. You have no idea. And a little dog. Well, he was about, and probably we had him for a week or so. Oh, one of the waiters, or the footsman, somebody, went to Scotland for a vacation, came back with this dog, and they wouldn't allow him up there. So the madam says, "Here, Alec, for your children." So brought him home. We had him for a day or two. That's when Colonel went riding on his horse down the road. It was still a dirt road. It was exactly this dirty 80 years ago. And so a dog is a dog, a horse is a horse. And so here the dog saw, hey, this is a horse, I'm going to get friendly with him. So sure enough, he ran from here to the road. And whether he nipped him or whether he just smelled him, I don't know, I'll never know. And so that evening, Dad came home and he says, "Kids, I have something to tell you. It's either my job or the dog. What is it going to be?" And that's the way the Colonel put it, you know, my job or the dog. And so, yeah, we had to get rid of him.
Oh,
Yeah. And he was the cutest little thing this side of heaven. You have no idea, but we couldn't have him. And we never had a dog. And to this day, I could see a dog and I could care less.
well, some people are like that, and some aren't, I guess.
Oh,
But
unbelievable.
who were some of the other people who worked for the Wadsworths? Because it's such a huge house, and then you have 300 and so many acres.
Yeah, yeah.
The
So-
New Yorker. You know,
Oh, yeah, Jack Moriarty. Moriarty.
he was with them a long time.
Yeah, he was with them.
What did he do? Just
He was almost like the right-hand man.
the
He
right
was-
hand man.
He did everything, I think. Handsome guy.
Uh-huh.
Oh, tell her about the employees.
Oh, about 17 full-time employees.
But where they came from.
Oh, and they came from all over. We had a couple ladies from Sweden, and there were a couple. You know, you're sitting in a bad spot.
No,
Why
I'm
don't you sit over
fine. I
here?
just have to get behind that tree shadow, and then I'll be fine.
No, you could change your seat. You can sit in my seat if you want. You're not going to stand.
I drove all the way here. I've been sitting for an hour and a half.
Okay, stand.
Thank you. Wow.
No, oh, they came from all over. In fact, when they were visiting, whoever they were visiting, there was a gal from Sweden and a gal from Italy and a gal from Poland and, you know, all over the place. And they had about 17 employees, you know. And they had about 30 outside in the woods because around Christmas time, they, I hope they paid them, they asked the neighbors' men, boys, to come and help protect the woods. And they had, you know, as many as 20 protecting the woods. In fact, remember that story how Pa said it was Christmas season, and Colonel would always sit in the front seat with my father. He never sat in the back seat. Madam would be out in the back alone, and Colonel would be in the front with my father. And every so often he would pat my father on the leg as he was driving. I think that's the only contact he ever had. And so it was Christmas time, and he says we were going down the road, Wadsworth Street, and there was this little lady that just came off from the Long Hill Drive, walking, and she was carrying a piece of green. It was Christmas
From one of
time.
the pine trees or
Yeah, just a
evergreens?
limb.
Yeah.
You know, about this big. And so it was under her arm, and she was walking down the street, and it came from his property. So it wasn't until they followed her all the way down, past Wesleyan, way back when, I don't think you remember, it wasn't in your time, there was a little firehouse right there.
Oh, and West Side Market? Is that the store you meant?
West Side Market. Yeah. Yeah. It was a firehouse before it was a market. Okay. Yes, one and the same. And, so followed her, and she lived in that little firehouse next to the market. There was a little firehouse. And he went in there, and he said, I want my tree, it belongs to me. With all 434 acres, he wanted this limb. Don't ever come in my woods again. No. And I thought, and this poor lady, maybe this was her only touch of Christmas.
Oh my gosh.
No,
Oh,
he
dear.
wasn't, I don't think he was very sociable. And yes, and he was stingy, I must admit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tell
he
him
was.
Pa's pay.
Oh, yeah, I mean, what did he get, $100 every 4 weeks?
Yeah, it was only 50 weeks a year.
Oh,
instead
yeah,
of
50 weeks a
52.
year. That was his calendar,
Yeah.
and he got paid, you know, just that $100 every so-called month, yeah. She was generous, but he
was.
wasn't, no, he wasn't.
Tell me of what were her likes? What did she like to do? She had her flower gardens, but
Oh, yes, she
I'm
did.
sure she had lots of gardeners to help.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Her flower garden was outside of her bedroom window, apartment window. She had 3 rooms upstairs on that corner of the house. She had a living room and a sitting room and a bedroom. Her 3 rooms at this corner of the house. Opposite, and it used to be the library once upon a time, there was this little teeny room with a bed, a tall hospital bed. attached to the hospital bed, I swear, was that chair. There was a chair, a plain old wooden chair attached to the foot of the bed, one of the posts. I mean, tied up. That's how he used to climb into bed. He was a little man.
He was so small.
I mean, I was going to say,